I'm going to start recording right now just so we've got it all here. Do, 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 do. Yep. And I'm recording it locally so that way we save time. I don't have to download it out of the cloud.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah, cool.
Oh,
So
thank
good
you.
to meet you.
Great, great.
Yeah,
And thank you for inviting me for this podcast. I'm very
sure.
happy.
Excellent. Yeah.
And we both think alike because we are talking about employee engagement, leadership, and you connect the dots, and you are a continuous learner. So all these things resonates with my thinking.
Hmm. Oh, good. I'm glad
All
to
are
hear that.
aligned. It's a kind of team spirit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. Um, the the way that I start the pod, so when I do the podcast, I always record an intro after the
Uh,
podcast is done.
uh,
Right, separate. I just record a little short separate video and then edit them together.
okay.
But the first question that I ask guests on the podcast is always like, how did you get started thinking about or acting about leadership?
Uh,
It's the origin story. Like, what's your starting point?
could you repeat the question? Just
Yeah. So, what is it that got you started thinking about how to do leadership well?
yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm basically passionate about leadership, and I am an Indian Air Force veteran. I served in the Indian military for 12 years, so I'm passionate about leadership. Basically, that's one thing.
So I think that the I get that you serve time in the military and that has you be passionate, but what's the starting point? When did you start to really think about leadership? Because I wasn't born thinking about leadership. For me, it was a requirement to really think about it to be effective when I was given my first software team to lead or told to build my first software team.
No,
Um, I'm always curious where other people like what's the starting point? When did you first start to really think about effective leadership?
so it's a great question. So, right from my building, right from the uh, beginning, so I started admiring Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln has been my inspiration since my childhood,
Oh,
and
okay.
I would
Abraham
go
Lincoln.
to I
Interesting.
used to go to far distant places to visit the libraries, and the first person who came to my mind was Abraham Lincoln. I didn't know much about Abraham Lincoln, and the letter was very unique, and I went to the library. I used to go to library by a walk, sometimes by pedaling the cycle. I used to go to library because in those days we didn't have technology.
Sure.
So I visited a library in my life by walk. I went to a library. Then I saw one person, that is Abraham Lincoln. Then that has gone to my mind, and subsequently I came to know about Abraham Lincoln. That's how the idea of leadership has flashed on my mind. And Abraham Lincoln has been my inspiration since my childhood. That's one thing.
That's interesting.
And subsequently, I joined Indian Air Force, and for 12 years I was in my native place, and I had a very uh, chaotic childhood, and I was born into a toxic family and grew up in a toxic environment. I had lots of challenges, and luckily I joined Indian Air Force, and I grew as a healthy citizen, and I grew as a leader. Then, and when I was into Indian Air Force, then I started reading about various leaders like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, some leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela,
Hmm.
Aung San Suu Kyi, His Holiness Dalai Lama. and Martin Luther King. So I started reading about them. So I got more inspired. And I'm basically dyslexic, and I have OCD, and I'm a late bloomer. And add to that, I had a brain stroke in the year
Mhm.
2021. So despite all the challenges, I kept learning and growing, uh, because basically I'm very curious by nature and I'm very creative by nature. So this is how the leadership has flashed on my mind, and not only through the books and in my real life. So I practiced. I am both a scholar and also a practitioner. Scholar means I am a doctorate and my PhD, and that is I am a scholar. Apart from that, I am a practitioner because I travel different areas in my life. First, Indian Air Force, that was military.
Mhm.
Second, I was an entrepreneur, which did work out. Third, I became a faculty member and became a professor. Then I became an author. So like that, I traveled my journey in different areas. Then for the last 17 years, I'm writing research papers, and I published 300 research papers in my lifetime. And I serve on the editorial board of DLO of Emerald and JBPL and various other boards I am serving. And within a span of 17 years, I published 53 books. And I authored 60, but published only 53 because 7 books are still pending. And
Mhm.
due to health challenges, COVID has struck. For the last 3.5 years, I have health challenges. So I can't edit and upgrade my books. This is how the journey about leadership has begun. And
Mhm.
then again, what I did was I earned my PhD in soft skills in the year 2011, and I'm passionate about leadership. Then I acquired my PhD in soft skills. I blended both soft skills with leadership and coined a new leadership perspective that is known as uh, 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 soft leadership and innovative perspective. That's what I started, and I published around 10 books on soft leadership and soft leadership.
Wow.
And yeah, and again, what happened? My journey has not stopped. There is some uniqueness about this soft leadership, uh, and I have dedicated the book titled "Soft Leadership: New Direction to Leadership" to uh, Peter Drucker, who is known as father of modern management. That's one aspect. Second thing is uh, the father of modern marketing, Philip Kotler, who is my friend. He has written a foreword for my book titled "Soft Leadership: A New Direction to Leadership." Third aspect is that the father of modern HR, Dave Ulrich, has created a leadership code for uh, this book. And fourth aspect is that I am known as soft leadership globally because of my contribution in the area of soft leadership. So, because of these four unique aspects, I am known as father of soft leadership, and I published lots of research papers, and I'm still doing some kind of research, and I'm integrating soft leadership with employee engagement, integrating with the humanity, I'm integrating with empathy, then various aspects and also emotional intelligence. All these things I'm integrating. I'm doing research, and I want to discover something new to impact humankind. So this is briefly about my leadership journey and also about my books.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Um, I'm always curious about philosophical perspectives in action, right?
Ah,
Like,
mm,
like, can you give me an example of a time when you've used your approach in a challenging environment
ah,
to to really field test the
ah,
idea versus the reality of the world?
yeah. In the sense, could you repeat this question,
Sure.
please?
So you've got this construct, soft leadership, for how to do leadership effectively, right?
Correct.
And the thing that I'm always curious about is what are the case studies where people have taken that idea and they've put it into action and they've
yeah,
seen what happens, right? I'm
yeah,
always curious about how does it work in action and how do other people repeat
yeah.
that same kind of a thing, right? How does this, an example of the system in use?
Yeah, that's good. Great question you have asked, and thank you for paraphrasing
Mhm.
your question. And I'm grateful to you for helping me
Yeah.
because basically I had a brain stroke, so I'm speaking slowly. So please empathize with me. So now coming to this question, the soft leadership basically a theoretical one, and it's basically about scholarly approach, but we can implement soft leadership in various areas. For example, the soft leadership helps achieve peace and prosperity for uh, countries. The soft leadership helps organizations achieve effectiveness and excellence. The soft leadership is useful for all generations, whether they are baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z. And the soft leadership is useful and in the practical life, and it helps in view of technology and artificial intelligence. So this is very much required. This is very much relevant, and still I'm doing research, as I said, and we need to work in such a way that we impact humankind, and for that we need to integrate technology with this, and again we have to integrate teams. We need to work in teams because nowadays people we talk so many things that's different, but in reality uh, 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 alignment is the key. Alignment is missing in the teams, in the workplace, everywhere. So we need to emphasize alignment so that we will be able to engage employees, and we can inspire them. So
So,
these are all the things. Then we need to connect with corporate culture, and we should have a what that called uh, what that called organizational. We have to emphasize on organizational culture and organizational climate. All these things, when we integrate, we will be able to get the desired desired outcomes.
okay, so right now, the stuff that you're talking about is all about the benefit, right?
Yeah,
You're talking about the benefit. What I'm really curious about, I'm always curious about the nitty gritty in action. What does it look like, right? And for whenever people talk about systems, and I
yeah,
think what you're describing is a system,
yeah,
what I want to know is, and this is, for anything, right? Um, is when has it been in action and when has somebody used it? If you're doing research, then you've got a hypothesis and you're trying an experiment, right? And
yeah,
so
correct.
what's the experiment versus the control?
Yeah,
Um, because I mean, I've I've spent a lot of years doing experiments around leadership to see what's going to be effective, what's going to be more effective, and along the way, I learned what didn't work. Right?
mm,
A bunch of my experiments failed
mm,
because that's the scientific method, right?
yeah, correct.
So when you're talking about the benefits, I want to drop down a layer and go to, okay, so give me an example of somebody using this, what the problem was when they started, how they implemented and what they did, and then what's the outcome. And what were the pieces in the middle that allowed it to work effectively?
Yeah. Okay, great question. I got your question. So I would like to put in this perspective. I worked in the Indian Air Force, and practically I worked. Let us keep the theoretical aspect and scholarly approach different. So let me talk about my own experiences from Indian Air Force, because I
Yeah.
served in the Indian Air Force. That's military I served. So we worked in the Indian Air Force, and which is a military organization. and I worked as a technician, and
Mhm.
uh, and the role of technicians is very challenging in the Indian Air Force. And what we would do, sometimes employees lack the motivation, so we encourage the employees, and we have motivated them. That's one thing. And whenever we're doing some activities, and since I was a technician in the aeroplanes, so I worked with teams, and there were some mismatch between the reality and theory. So we tried to bridge the gap between theory and practical, and we kept moving. So these
Mhm.
are all my observations I experienced in the Indian Air Force, and lots of stories are there to talk about my journey of leadership, especially from the perspective of a technician. And what we did in the Indian Air Force was that we worked with the technicians, and we do technical as stuff. Everything we used to do that. Then again, we find some misalignments. We removed the misalignments. Then again, we aligned and we kept moving. Sometimes things don't work out in practical life. So what we do again, we go for repeat. We do the same thing. We repeat, and we ensure that things are falling into the place. That's what we do it, because this misalignment is the challenge. Whether it's Indian Air Force or organizations, whatever it is. I think you worked in. I think if I believe you worked in Google and you worked in some other companies, right? So
Yep. Yep.
everywhere we find some challenges,
Yep.
and
Always.
we need to remove the barriers, and we have to align the things. Alignment is the key. So we have to align the things, which is easier said than done. So team building is not an easy thing. It's a very challenging one, and I have experienced in my own life. And let me share one aspect which we can learn from the nature. See, birds fly in V formation, right?
Hmm.
Why they fly in V formation? Because they increase the speed by 51%, and they minimize the drag. So that's the reason why the birds fly in V formation, right? And we can learn from not only from technician, because I was a technician. That's one thing. Keeping my technical perspective and scholarly perspective away, I will talk about from the perspective of nature. Birds, they work in teams, and one of the birds, when birds fly in V formation, one or two birds, if they are sick or if they are falling down or dead, so all the birds that are dead, that are sick, then we will support them. Then again we get into the V formation. That's what we do it. Similarly, in military also, if for example 100 soldiers were there, I was also one of the soldiers. If one of the soldiers was had some health challenges or problems, we would support all soldiers, and we will revive the uh, we support the soldier, then we will make him healthy. Then again we work. So we work in a team. It's not only in the Indian Air Force, but in the from the nature. So we have to tell these things from the practical perspective. One is practical perspective. Second is from the perspective of nature. Then third, I told you about the books and scholarly approach. So all those things I am integrating right now, so that you will have the feel of the discussion.
Okay. Um, is there anything within your system, um, like when you break it down, what are the kinds of individual steps that people are learning to be effective with this?
See, we have to. There are so many strategies. We have to break the problem into pieces. Then we have to address each problem, we have multiple problems. Let us take one problem. Let us suppose that problem we will try to divide into multiple uh, layers, and we will try to address them. Then again we will integrate them, and then we will bring out the desired result. That's what we do it. In the sense, we need to break the problem, and we have to address each minute part of the problem. Then we have to integrate. Then we come with a viable and feasible solution. This is this is again related to team building. So
Mm-hmm.
the message is very simple. We have to break the problem into small, minute parts and address them, layers or whatever you call. Then we have to address them. Then again we have to integrate them and come out with a desired solution. That's what it's about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, is there a do you have any kind of a, from your research, have you seen any standardized approaches?
Uh, uh, Standardized approach means
So so
I mean your question is not clear. Standardized approach means about soft leadership we are talking, or about team building, or from which area you are talking about?
right. So well, I tend to think of teams as a result
Yeah,
of people operating well together
yeah,
and having, to your point, they have an aligned set of goals, right? And
yeah,
each person has their own set of goals, but the
yeah,
combination together is all going in the same direction.
yeah.
Um, have Are you seeing, or what have you seen that have been um, standard starting points that
See,
people?
there is no uh, standard approach for anything. It's learning. It's about learning curve. Life is all about learning curve. We learn the things, and if we make mistakes, and we will correct, and we keep going. That's what we do it. And
Okay,
there is nothing like any fixed standard solution about leadership or about team building. See, people have different emotions. You have to have different people for different strokes. Ken Blanchard talked about different strokes for different people. So people have different emotions, different feelings, egos. So uh, we have to address them. Then we have to keep moving. And there is nothing like a very fixed approach and a fixed solution. It's all about learning and trial and error method. We try, keep doing. If we fail, then again we learn and we keep moving. So it's a trial and error method. There is nothing like a standard process, but the ultimate objective of any kind of leadership is to get the end result. How to achieve, how to improve the organizational bottom lines. That is the important. Whether you approach for X company or Y company or Z company, whatever it is, you have to improve the organizational bottom lines. That is the target. So the means are many, but the end is one. That is improving the organizational bottom lines.
interesting. That has not been my experience.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
because you have an experience. I think you worked in, if I believe, you worked in Google and one more
Yeah,
company you worked.
I've worked for a bunch of different companies,
Yeah, I
and
know, I know, I know. You started in a very early stage,
yeah.
and
So
you grow,
and
and you don't have that. You don't have any science background or something that, but you learned by experience.
right, and
You learned by experience.
I also learned that I could apply the same systems over and over again to teams in different contexts,
Yeah.
and I got the same result. Like
Oh,
I found a structure
yeah,
that consistently, repeatedly worked with my teams.
yeah,
Um, that got me the outcomes that I wanted. and humans are pattern recognition creatures. And
Yeah.
so for me, I looked at the patterns of people that I'd worked with in the past and
Mm.
what were their systems, and where'd they work really well and where didn't they work really well, right? What were the lessons I could learn?
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm a huge believer in leadership as a system, and you always do the exact same things because that's what I've been doing, and I keep getting good results,
Oh,
and it allows me to teach other people
yeah.
how to replicate my results. And I've at this
Correct.
point in time, I've taught hundreds of people,
Uh,
and they've all been able to replicate my results.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Uh, Sorry.
to me, that's a um it's like learning math, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You
Math
said,
has
yeah,
math is a
maths.
system,
Uh,
right?
mm.
And so, right now you may look at adding 3 plus 4 as different than adding 7 plus 5,
Uh,
but they're not. They're both addition, and the
yeah.
operators are the same. And
Mm.
so, math, irrespective of what the values are coming into the formula, it's very much a system, because otherwise we couldn't globally answer mathematical questions, right? And
Okay.
so that's how I think about leadership. And every time I research somebody who's an excellent leader,
Mm.
they're following the same, the excellent ones, they very much follow the same kind of systems approach.
Mm.
And it might look different if you don't understand the formula, but once you understand the formulas in there, it's always the same.
Yeah. Okay. Let me talk about. You talked about mathematical things, and that flashed on my mind. The thing is, a plus b, a square plus b square is equal to 2ab. Okay, I think everybody knows it, right? It's a standardized things. But in real life and in leadership, there is flexibility. And whatever the pattern you followed in the past, sometimes the same pattern may not work. Now it may not work in the future because things are changing very fast. And just because we were successful in one particular pattern, and we should not come to a conclusion that we will be successful in the same way. So what we need to do, we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay, so we have some mathematical formula like 4 plus 3 means how much? It's 4 plus 3 means 7, right?
Yeah.
It's a mathematical formula that everybody talks, and that's correct. But in real life, it's not in that way, right? Uh,
That's
formula,
not my
formulae,
experience.
formulae are different and reality are different, but we have to take the support of formulae, right? But at the same time, we have to be flexible and to get the results. Because when we talk about leadership, it's not a fixed formula.
So, okay,
Different people have different ideas, different.
let's back up a minute. How do you define leadership?
Leadership means there are so many definitions. If you Google, you will get lots of hits about leadership. Leadership means what? Leading from the front, adding value, and making a difference in the lives of others. That's one way of definition. Okay. Then again, leadership means what? You have to lead, you have to motivate people and build teams, and you have to get the desired outcomes, right? So
Okay.
there are so many
Yeah.
different definitions about leadership, and we can't say that there is any fixed definition about leadership. Whereas 4 plus 3 means 7, you say. That's correct. And a plus b a square plus b square is equal to 2ab. That's a formula that we can't change it. E is equal to mc square. Einstein said that's fixed. That can't be changed, right? Einstein said. So that's different aspect that we agree, and we follow those formulae. Apart from that, when we do things in leadership, it's based on various permutations and combinations. And what worked in the past may not work now. What works now it may not work in the future because things are changing very fast in view of the technology, especially in view of artificial intelligence. So we can't come to one particular conclusion based on the particular pattern because everyone has a unique pattern and we follow it. But again, that pattern we must to change with the changing times and technologies because what worked at that time may not work in now because you worked in some companies, you worked in a couple of companies like
Mhm.
uh, some companies you worked, right? But I worked
Sure.
only in Indian Air Force. That was my experience.
Right, right.
So like that, everyone has their own experiences. Everyone has a unique story. My story is different. Your story is different.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Everyone
Fine.
has a different story.
Yeah. I'm part of my input,
Yeah.
right? You talk about the Indian Air Force. Part of my input and the stuff that I learned comes from one of my mentors who spent a lot of years in the US Air Force in their supply chain,
Um,
right, for munitions. Um,
SCM.
and he had some really good insights on leadership that kind
Yeah.
of set me at some foundational perspectives.
Yeah.
I have not found those to be wrong in any context, and I've used them in technology. I've used them in race car teams. I saw them in action in college, and I worked in a really nice restaurant. Um, I saw them in action as a first responder. So aside from my tech career, there's lots of other places where I've seen these same patterns play out over and over again. And they're abstracted patterns. They're not, um, they are, they're not 1 + 1 = 2. They are, how does addition work kinds of
Yeah.
patterns, right? And and I fully get that there may be contexts where it won't work,
Yeah.
but definitely with the 80/20 point, um, or maybe it's the 95/5, I'm seeing these things play out over and over and over again. Um, and I will freely admit that maybe it's because of the way my head's wired,
Yeah.
right? Because I've had different experiences, I've had different kinds of learning,
Yeah.
and I've and I'm definitely a systems thinker, even when
Mm.
I'm abstracting it from a high altitude.
Yeah.
Um, and I also recognize that for some people, they won't see the pattern that I see because they don't have the experience in the filter, right?
Yeah.
It's a practice thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. See, every country and every area of work has comes out with some unique story. Now you were talking about officer from air force, I mean military from
Mm-hmm.
US. So that's kind of experience he encountered, and I had a different kind of experience.
Sure.
And now again things have changed.
Right.
So things are changing so fast everywhere and we can't stick to any particular pattern. But again, let me share with you one pattern. I wake up 4 o'clock, right? And I create my own content. I create so many things in my head. Then I
Mm-hmm.
generate my content. Then I destroy unwanted things from my mind. Precisely, I am the creator, I am the generator, and I am the destroyer. In the sense, this
Mm-hmm.
is I am wired to think in that way because I am from a military background. I wake up 4 o'clock every day, right? That's the pattern I'm having. I
Sure.
can't change my circadian rhythm, right? But I have one flow. I go in that way. 4 o'clock I wake up. I'm very punctual, on time, and I keep doing it. That's the kind of pattern I am having. Still, I can't break that pattern. So
Sure.
sometimes you should have one particular pattern. You have to stick to it. That's my schedule I am having.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when we talk about organizations, it's different. It's flexible. We need to change. See, I was in India. Now I'm in US. Now I have to adjust with that time zones, different
Sure.
time
Yep.
zones,
Yep.
all those things, it happens. But
Right.
although at the basic core of my personality is same, core of my personality, character, everything is same. But little bit have changed at the surface level, and we need to change. That's what is required about a pattern. So
Okay.
you can't stick to any particular pattern. But for certain things you have to stick to, but you need to make some changes here and there superficially to get the desired outcomes. I agree with your point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think that my patterns are very flexible. And
Yeah, good,
and
good, good,
you
good.
know, and
Flexible. You have to be flexible. Yeah, correct.
right.
Now you are hitting the bullseye. Yeah, you are
Yeah.
hitting the
And
bullseye.
and the other thing is I've got lots of use cases of testing my patterns. So I'll
Uh
give you
huh.
an example, right?
Uh huh.
I have found that if I can help the people on my team to achieve their career goals,
Yeah.
I get better productivity,
Yeah, correct.
right? And
Mm.
so I ask them, like, I do one-on-ones with my team every week.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of that is for them to complain to me, for
Yeah.
them to tell me what's wrong that's slowing down their ability to do good work.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, right?
Mm.
It's whatever their friction happens to be. And then I go figure out how to remove the friction,
Yeah.
right? When I do that, they trust me more,
Yeah.
they work better,
Yeah, correct.
they have greater psychological safety. And
Excellent.
oftentimes the friction is, oh, I'm
Yeah.
doing this thing, but I want to be doing that thing.
Yeah,
And I
correct.
go, okay, great. Let's figure out how to make that happen. Right.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to adjust the team and get you moving in that direction. And I'm driving intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
And
Intrinsic
so,
and eccentric motivation.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm always moving towards intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
And that's a pattern.
Yeah.
The tools that I use along the way are always the same tools
Mm.
because one of the tools is I've got to be patient
Mm.
because they're not going to trust me on day one and give me their
Yeah.
vulnerability. And after 10 weeks, whatever it takes, then they trust me and they'll say, I've been doing blah, blah, blah. I've been doing back end coding and now I want to do front end, but I don't know that much about front end. Okay, great. Awesome. Let's get you to learn about front end. Let's get you to start practicing. Let's pair program you with somebody else who does front end work. And let's figure out how to get the stuff you've been doing handled in some way by somebody else on the team, right? Figure out some progressive change to get that to happen. They love it, right?
Mm.
I test my hypothesis all the time in the real world, right?
Good.
Like
Good. Good.
I am very much driven to go find the proof of my theory.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing that if I remove friction, my team operates better. If I help people go down the direction of their intrinsic motivation, the team operates better. Now,
Correct.
I get that in a military environment where um, you've got an assigned kind of role in an organization, you might not have the flexibility to go do that.
Yeah.
I fully get it. But there's lots of other things that leadership in the military can do to make your life better.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard lots of stories about things that my military mentor did to help people operate better. Right.
Yeah.
And to remove their friction.
Yeah.
So I'm getting this from very different kinds of environments.
Yeah. Correct.
And so I keep seeing this pattern over and over again, right? I keep experimenting with the pattern over and over again.
Great.
And the
Great.
experiments, when they fail and I start to really dig in, I find either somebody is completely not matched to what the business is trying to do, And then if we can't get them aligned with the business, then I try to very compassionately move them out to someplace they're going to like, right? Or they need a coaching in a way that I haven't found before from them. Like they haven't, like, and I need to figure out how do we make that happen, right? Or they're in completely the wrong kind of role. Um, I had a software engineer years ago who came to me and said, I'm not happy doing this job anymore. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Like you're a great asset to the company. And he said, I don't really know. And I said, well, okay, look, we got a company full of people doing all these different jobs. Put a standing thing in your calendar that at 3 o'clock every Friday, you're going to go do research for 2 hours and go talk to people and the rest of the company. Go like every Friday, go do this. Come back to me in 6 weeks. Tell me what you learned. And 6 weeks later, he came back and said, I think I might want to do sales. And I said, oh, okay. That was completely not what I was expecting, but great. Let me see if I can get you embedded with a sales team for a week and figure out how to get your work done, like get you there part-time, right? We made that happen. He came back and said, oh my God, I love it. And he moved to the sales team. We figured out how to make that happen. And the guy that ran the sales team came back to me a month later and said, this guy's amazing at sales. He's incredibly good. Thank you for giving him the shot, right? That, to me, that was a really smart thing to do because I got great performance out of him, and then the other team got great performance out of him, right? And I've used that pattern, for 20 years, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me continue. This we had to be very much flexible in approach. See, for example, you want to get the desired outcomes. That
Always.
should be the takeaway. How you get that? Through flexible approach. There is nothing like that. We have to go in this way only. There are different ways to get the things done because
Sure.
different people have different emotions. Different people have different feelings, emotions, all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to manage emotions. We have to manage egos. We have to we have to manage feelings. All those things so that we can build successful teams.
Right. Right.
So that's one thing. So, but the approach must be very flexible. But the takeaway is that we should get the desired outcome, right? It could be a
Sure.
pattern.
Sure.
Pattern.
Yep.
You have a specific pattern that you follow. I respect it, and everyone has their own unique pattern. But at the same time, we need to take feedback from the
Sure.
pattern because if some of the things don't work out, what happens? We have to take feedback. Then we have to modify our patterns. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
take feedback, right?
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
take feedback, then we can improve our decision making, and we'll be able to get the desired outcomes, right?
Right.
This is one thing. So your pattern is based on the years of experience, right? I appreciate your pattern, and I have my own pattern. I wake up morning 4 o'clock, night 10 o'clock. I sleep. That is my pattern, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
So this I can't change it. Whether I'm US or whether I'm in India, this is the pattern I follow. Not only now, for the last I think 43 years, I am having the same pattern. So many people said you change, but I can't change because in the teenage I joined the military. So I was molded in that way. So I'm growing in that way only. So okay, that's the
Right.
pattern
Right.
I'm having. So everyone has some unique pattern. We must respect. At the same time, we have to be flexible. For example, I moved from India to Seattle, that is in US. So I have changed a little bit. All the pattern
Mm-hmm.
is one, but I found uh, time zones, various other challenges I have developed. But still, I'm moving. For example, I want to go from Seattle to Dallas. For example, how I can go? I can go by flight. I can go by road. These are all the means. But the end result is that I have to go from Seattle to Dallas, right?
Right.
So similarly, when you want to do something for organization, the takeaway is that what objectives you have accomplished, what you have achieved from the things that you do it, right? That matters,
Right. Right.
right? it's all about what you are doing, and it's how you do it.
Right.
Both are involved.
Yep. Yep.
I hope you. I don't know whether you. I think we are having a very interesting debate, a very interesting conversation. And you are from. I think you are from California, and I am from Seattle. Currently, I am in Seattle.
Hmm.
But still, God has connected all people, and we are aligned. And
Sure.
we are what is that? We are aligning the teams, people, resources mentally, and we are getting the productivity and performance, and we are getting the results.
Right.
So I
Right.
think I can put it in that way. This is the kind of case study I think we are creating from
Right.
this
Right.
conversation. You are talking about a case study, right? And uh, most of the times I was in business, then I was in teaching, so different areas I entered. So I don't have any particular way of doing things. The strength with me is that I worked in various different areas. Again, my weakness is that I worked in different areas. There is no consistency in my areas.
Sure.
But there is only one consistency in my life, that is waking up morning 4 o'clock, sleeping night 10 o'clock. That's the one consistency. And second consistency is that I'm a conscious learner, and I'm a continuous. Uh, I keep. I'm learning continuously from childhood to till date. So like that, there are certain things we are consistent. Certain things are not consistent, right? So it
Right.
happens
Right.
for every individual. It happens for every organization,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
True. Cool. Okay. Um, I'm conscious of the time.
Now,
Um, and I need to get off and get prepared. This has been a great conversation. How can people get hold of you?
it's very simple. I'm available. I have 4 blogs and 3 YouTube channels. I'm available on LinkedIn. It's a
Okay.
professional network. I'm always connected with LinkedIn only. And I have some health challenges. I think I forgot to tell you. Let me briefly give you my profile. I'm Professor M.S. Rao. I have 43 years of diversified experience, published 53 books, and I'm a late bloomer, dyslexic, ADHD, OCD. Add to that, the brain stroke ruined my health. And I have mental challenges, physical challenges, and financial challenges. And I was born into a toxic family and grew up in a toxic environment. I'm 61 years old. I don't get any pension. I don't have any regular income. And I don't have two-wheeler. I don't have four-wheeler. I'm 61 years old. Despite all these challenges, I rose from the ashes like a phoenix. This is briefly about my profile. And my right portion of the body was totally paralyzed. Now I'm recovering. For more than 3.5 years, I have problems with the right hand is paralyzed. So lots of challenges I'm having. I'm very grateful to Bill for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I'm grateful to you, Bill, and really are a fine human being. And
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for giving me this opportunity. I'm very much
Yeah.
grateful to you. And I'm sorry that I'm repeating because of the health challenges. I have a brain stroke. That is the problem.
Not a problem.
So I'm using a blood thinner regularly, and I have to use, if I get uh, brain stroke second time, I won't be there on this world forever. So I'm taking my own care, and I'm
Good.
grateful to you for this wonderful opportunity. And
Thank
I'm
you.
available on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. You have to Google my name, Professor M.S. Rao. You will find so many things about my soft leadership. Published 10 books in soft skills alone. I'm still doing research about soft leadership, and I'm integrating with various areas like brain science, teams, employee engagement, humanity, emotional intelligence, AI. All these things I'm trying to integrate and create something new, and discover something new to impact the humankind. This is my lifetime vision.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'll put links to your LinkedIn profile and YouTube and some of your books
Uh,
in the show notes.
And please send me the raw video so I will
Yep,
upload on my YouTube channel. Okay,
will
then.
do. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. That
Take
was
care.
awesome.
Have a great day.
You too.
Wonderful
Thank you very
conversation.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.